Hello everyone, and welcome to Project EtherCell. Today I'm going to be breaking down step by step what I plan to do in terms of building a ion energy harvesting system which uses all natural resources. And by resources, I'm going to be going all the way back to ancient times in terms of logic. This right here is called a microbe fuel cell. I know a lot of you are looking at this cell and you are thinking that is a galvanic reaction happening in this cell. But that is not the case. This is using electrons deposited from microbes composting waste inside of this cell. And as long as the oxygen is circulating and there is CO2 emitting from these microbes, then what we have here is a continuously running cell that runs off life force itself and the decomposition of life force materials, which is basically the peat moss keeping this circuit energized. There is humic acid, which is the predominant energizer for this system, and the oxygen and the CO2 works in coherence with the peat moss to keep the peat moss rooted into the dirt. And I'm not a biologist, but there is basically a continuous form of life happening in this cell, and I was able to confirm that using AI, just to help back up this conversation a little bit. The only thing that I can say that will improve this cell based off of the patents that I have here is that, one, I will need more surface area, more microbes. The more microbes, the better by the looks of it. And according to the patents that I have here, I guess the one I'm going to point out is the one that really aligns most with what I'm doing here. It's called the Structured Geobacter Biofilm Microbe Fuel Cell. And that is US patent 8283076B2. And for everyone wanting to know, yes, it can create 1 watt or greater if you build the cell right. And if you have enough microbes, obviously. So what I have here is actually a very genius design. It requires very minimal light. And on top of that, the peat moss is acting as a symbiotic fuel source for the microbes, and the longevity of this cell could potentially last for years. The only thing that I want to do to improve the output of this design today is, one, I want to reduce the amount of dirt or soil or whatever medium you're using for your cell, but this is the main medium you should be using. I'm going to reduce the amount of dirt in this cell by 4 times. So there's about centimeters of dirt in here, so there's going to be about 2 centimeters of dirt in the next cells that I build. And by doing that, I will be reducing the internal resistance of the cell, enabling me to connect more cells in series and parallel. And what's really cool about what I'm doing is the fact that the longevity of these cells are completely determined by materials you're using to energize a cell with. And from what I've gathered, this out in the woods contrapted idea is one of the best ideas you can use to get significant watts out of one cell. The more geobacter bacteria you have in a cell, the more energy you'll get out of it as well. And what's really cool about geobacter bacteria is that it can usually be found at the bottom of ponds. So it's not really hard to find it. But what's really interesting is this cell doesn't have the geobacter. It has microbes growing in it, but I'm unsure of what kind of microbes, because the cell is growing. And according to this patent, each cell can grow all the way up to about 600 millivolts and remain continuous, depending on the size of the cell, which is determined by the amount of carbon you have and the size of the cathode you're using to a certain degree to help transfer those electrons. It turns the carbon into I wouldn't really call it the sacrificial anode, but it is the homing ground for the microbes to colonize onto the carbon and form enormous amounts of electrons the more they colonize onto the carbon. And the carbon can last for years with the biofilm on it because they are not eating away at the carbon, they are eating away at the compost waste inside the cell. So as long as you have peat moss separated onto the top layer, you'll actually get microbes forming onto the roots of the peat moss, and you'll also get it forming onto the carbon. And if you have your positive connection on the top right underneath the peat moss, you actually get a very good reaction from the cell. And you don't get a galvanic reaction unlike the electrochemical cells that you commonly see on the internet. This idea right here is not just being utilized by me. There's many companies, including the military, that utilizes microbe fuel cells to energize sensors, and I'm sure you could do much more with them if you scaled them to larger outputs. But for what I'm going to be using my system for is the electric pyramid generator circuit. And the whole purpose of this circuit, and I will explain it to you right now. Okay, US patent number 8004250B2. This circuit was made by Peter Grandix, who took all of this newly discovered information back in 2008 and reworked it into his own image. Basically, he took the work of Nikola Tesla predominantly, and he created a Tesla coil circuit that harvests ions from the higher atmosphere using the secondary circuit of the Tesla coil system. Basically, that is the circuit right here. The secondary coil is being energized by the primary input here. The secondary coil is tuned with the top load, which is placed roughly 40 meters in the sky. So this is using a very long extended pull system to run energy from the higher atmosphere down into the secondary, which energizes the system up to 100 times the power gain. Now my design is not identical, but right here we have the primary and secondary coil values, which give you a better understanding of how they were able to get that apparent power gain from the circuit. And right here is the apparent power gain of the primary to the secondary output. So when he was inputting 0.33 watts of power, which is 330 milliwatts of power into the system, he was able to pull 15.7 watts out of the system. And as he scaled it up in watts, the harvesting capabilities of this circuit was scaling more and more. That being said, using 1 watt of power could be one of the greatest advantages of this system in terms of energy harvesting with the Tesla coil circuit. But what I have right now so far is a guaranteed method of producing electrons for years on end. So what I am going to be doing now in the next video is show you guys what happens when I connect these cells in series and parallel, and I'm going to show you guys how they mature periodically over time. I'll also show you the step-by-step method on how I build one cell, and obviously you'll be able to figure out how to do the rest. The less dirt you have, the less internal resistance you build up, which means the more current you can get out of the system with the same millivolt rating. So I hope this information really helps you guys, because I have been talking with AI for a very long time, because I really have never had anybody else to teach me the really in-depth knowledge on physics, but AI helped out quite a bit when it came to that. So I hope this information helps all of you out, because what we can build here is potentially a 1 watt to 2 watt per meter squared microbe fuel cell. And if you guys stick along with me during this journey to build and complete the Tesla coil circuits, I would greatly appreciate all of your support. And I would just like to let all of you know I do have a lot of information regarding what I'm doing on all of my other social media pages. I won't give out all the names because I'm not sure if that's going to violate policies or not, but yeah, I highly recommend checking them out, and you will get a much better understanding of what I am doing with Project EtherCell. And stay tuned for the next video, because I'll show you what happens when you connect these cells in series and parallel. And I just want to let you know, this one cell is producing 27 microwatts and growing by the day. So be sure to like this video and comment below, and I will be showing you a power factor, or a COP output of this battery cell. So thank you for following along, and stay tuned for the next video. Peace.